Morning came too early and not early enough. Thorne woke at 5:30 a.m. to his alarm's insistent beeping, that aggressive digital shriek designed by someone who clearly hated sleep and everyone who engaged in it. He slapped at the snooze button twice before connecting, then lay there in the unfamiliar darkness of his new bedroom, blinking at a ceiling he didn't quite recognize yet. Right, the new apartment, the Ashford. Fourth floor, apartment 4A, the wall, Violette. The memories crashed back in a rush, her voice through the plaster sharp and exhausted. Julian's anger, the door slamming. The crying that had finally stopped sometime after midnight while Thorne lay awake, staring at shadows and wondering what the hell he was doing with his life. He sat up, running a hand through hair that badly needed a cut. Margot had been nagging him about it for weeks, said he looked like a woodsman who'd lost his way to civilization. The bedroom was dark except for the ambient glow of Manhattan filtering through the blinds, that particular quality of city light that never quite let you experience true darkness. Even at 5:30 a.m., he could see the outline of his furniture, the closet door standing open, the window framing a sky that was more purple than black. He listened, silence from the other side of the wall. Of course, silence. It was 5:30 in the morning. Normal people, people who hadn't just had their hearts broken and their relationships imploded, were still asleep. Violette was probably buried under her covers, eyes swollen from crying, getting what rest she could before her alarm went off and she had to face being a COO of a billion-dollar corporation while feeling like her personal life was a disaster. Thorne swung his legs out of bed, feet hitting hardwood that was cold despite the building's heating. October in Manhattan. The weird in-between season where mornings were freezing and afternoons were warm and you never knew what the hell to wear. He padded to the bathroom, turned on the shower, and waited for the water to heat. The bathroom was obscene, all gleaming white tile and chrome fixtures and a rainfall showerhead the size of a dinner plate. The mirror above the sink was one of those fancy ones with built-in lighting, the kind that made you look either amazing or like you'd been dead for 3 days, depending on your current state of exhaustion. Thorne looked like he'd been dead for 3 days. He showered quickly, the water pressure so good it almost hurt, and tried not to think about whether Violette's shower was running on the other side of the wall. Tried not to wonder if she was awake yet, if she'd slept at all, if she was standing under her own rainfall showerhead washing away the previous night's tears and preparing to face the world with the kind of armor that women like her, women who ran corporations and made billion-dollar decisions, had to wear just to survive. He was thinking about her too much. This was a problem. He dressed in work clothes, Carhartt jeans worn soft at the knees, steel-toed boots that had seen better days, a St. James electric polo that Margot kept threatening to burn because it had a stain near the left pocket that wouldn't come out no matter how many times it went through the wash. Professional enough for meeting clients, practical enough for crawling through attics and drilling through joists. In the kitchen, he approached the espresso machine like it was an explosive device requiring careful defusal. The previous tenant had left a user manual, thank God, and Thorne studied it while the machine made increasingly aggressive noises during its warm-up cycle. Apparently, you had to run water through the group head first, then grind beans to a specific consistency, then tamp them with exactly the right pressure, then fuck it. He pressed the button marked Americano and hoped for the best. The machine roared to life like a small jet engine, gurgling and hissing and producing what was technically coffee. It tasted better than anything he'd made in his old Mr. Coffee, which meant the machine was either excellent or he had terrible taste. Possibly both. He was standing at the kitchen counter, laptop open to check emails, when he heard it. An alarm. Electronic. Pleasant chime, not the aggressive beeping of his own clock. It rang twice, then silence. Through the wall, Violette's alarm. Thorne froze, coffee cup halfway to his lips, and glanced at his watch. 5:30 a.m. She woke up at exactly the same time he did. He didn't know why this felt significant, but it did. Like they were synchronized somehow. Two strangers in adjacent apartments starting their days at the same moment, separated by nothing but plaster and circumstance. Footsteps next door, soft, barefoot probably, then water running, shower. Thorne stared at his laptop screen without seeing it. This was fine. This was normal. People showered in the morning. It meant nothing, except he was listening for it, except he'd noticed. The shower ran for exactly 12 minutes. He knew because he was still standing there, coffee getting cold in his hand when it shut off. He felt like a creep. He felt like he should move, go to the other room, turn on the TV, anything to create distance from this weird intimacy of knowing his neighbor's morning routine. But he didn't move. More footsteps next door, a hairdryer kicked on, distant, muffled by walls and doors, but audible. The sound persisted for maybe 8 minutes, then stopped. Then something he didn't expect. Music. Classical. Piano. Melancholy and beautiful. The kind of music that sounded like it was written by someone who understood sadness on a molecular level. Chopin, maybe? Thorne wasn't cultured enough to know composers, but his mother had liked classical music, had played it on Sunday mornings while she made pancakes. This sounded like something she would have chosen. The music filled the silence, and Thorne imagined Violette on the other side of the wall getting dressed while Chopin played, probably looking at herself in a mirror and putting on whatever face she needed to wear today. The professional one, the competent one. The one that said, "I'm fine, I'm completely fine. I definitely didn't spend last night crying over a man who called me frigid." At 6 a.m., the coffee maker next door started up. Thorne heard it through the wall, the same model as his probably, making the same aggressive jet engine sounds. They were having coffee at the same time, separated by 6 inches of plaster, two strangers in identical morning routines who'd never spoken a word to each other. At 6:10 a.m., her phone rang. Thorne heard her answer, voice professional and crisp.
Morning, Daddy.
Daddy. Not dad or father. Daddy. The kind of formal, intimate term that spoke of old money and complicated family dynamics.
No, I'm getting ready for work. What's wrong?
A pause while she listened. Her voice changed, still professional, but with an edge now, defensive.
I already told you, Julian and I broke up. It's final.
Longer pause.
I don't care what Mother thinks. I'm not getting back together with him just to make Sunday dinners less awkward.
Thorne set down his coffee cup very carefully, very quietly, and moved closer to the wall. This was wrong. This was invasive. He was doing it anyway.
That's not fair. I work 80-hour weeks for this company. I've given you everything.
She stopped, listening. When she spoke again, her voice was very quiet, very controlled. The kind of control that took effort.
I have to go. I'll see you at the board meeting.
She hung up. Silence. Terrible silence. Then so soft Thorne almost missed it.
Fuck.
One word. Said with such perfect distillation of frustration and exhaustion and defeat that he felt it in his chest like a physical thing. Her coffee machine beeped, done brewing. Footsteps away from wherever she'd been standing, toward the bedroom probably. At 6:13 a.m., the music changed. Still Chopin, but a different piece. Nocturne in E-flat major, though Thorne wouldn't know that until he Shazammed it later. Out of curiosity, he couldn't quite explain. At 6:15 a.m. and 28 seconds, her door opened and closed. She'd left, exactly on schedule. Thorne checked his watch, then looked at the wall like it might offer answers to questions he didn't know how to ask. Who was she? Why did her morning routine already feel familiar? Why did he care? He grabbed his work bag, locked up, and took the elevator down to the lobby. The concierge was different this morning, an older man with gray hair and kind eyes, reading the New York Times behind the desk. He nodded at Thorne without looking up. The job in Queens was a special kind of hell. Old building, older wiring, and a client who'd clearly been watching too much HGTV and thought everything should be both beautiful and cheap. Mr. Holloway wanted recessed lighting in every room, outlets every 6 feet, and a whole house surge protector, all for about half what it would actually cost.
But the guy on TV said it should only take a day.
The guy on TV has a crew of 12 and a budget that isn't based in reality. What you're describing is a week of work, minimum. Maybe 2 weeks if we run into issues with your existing electrical panel, which we probably will given that this building was wired during the Eisenhower administration.
Can you do it cheaper if I buy the materials myself?
You could buy the materials yourself and have me install them, yes. But you'll probably buy the wrong things, and I'll still have to charge you for the time it takes to explain why your Amazon special LED retrofit kits won't work with your existing fixtures.
Mr. Holloway looked affronted.
I'm very handy.
I'm sure you are. But electrical work isn't a YouTube tutorial situation. It's a your house burns down if you screw it up situation.
They eventually settled on a scaled-back version of the project, recessed lighting in the living room only, new outlets in the kitchen, inspection of the electrical panel to see what they were working with. Thorne spent 8 hours running new lines through walls that seemed specifically designed to thwart him, drilling through joists that were harder than granite, and explaining to Mr. Holloway that no, you can't just splice into existing wiring without a junction box. That's literally against code and also a fire hazard. By the time he got home at 7:30 p.m., his back hurt, his hands were cramping, and all he wanted was a shower and food and maybe 8 hours of unconsciousness. He unlocked his door, stepped inside, and heard her before he even set his keys down. Not crying this time, laughing. Real laughter, bright and clear and completely different from the sadness of last night. It came through the wall like sunlight, unexpected and warm.
No, he actually said that. To the entire board. I thought Father was going to have a stroke.
Pause while she listened.
I know, I almost died. Harrison just sat there looking smug like he'd planned the whole thing.
More laughter, genuine and unguarded.
Yes. Lunch Thursday, I'm buying. You've earned it after listening to me whine for the past week.
She hung up. Thorne stood in his entryway, work bag still on his shoulder, keys in hand, and felt something shift in his chest. She was having a good moment. After 24 hours of knowing she existed, of hearing her fight and cry and struggle through phone calls with her father, she was having an actual good moment, and he felt absurdly, inexplicably happy about it. Which was insane. He didn't know her, hadn't even properly seen her face. She was just a voice through a wall, a stranger whose private moments he'd accidentally invaded because somehow he can hear every single sound coming from the other side of the wall, which shouldn't be possible. But he was happy she was laughing. That had to mean something, right? Through the wall, music started again. Not classical this time. Jazz. Something with a saxophone, smooth and low, the kind of music people played when they were winding down from the day, letting the tension bleed out of their shoulders, maybe pouring a glass of wine and standing at their windows watching the city light up. Thorne showered, the water pressure still obscenely good, one of the few perks of this expensive apartment, and stood under the spray longer than necessary, letting heat work at the knots in his back from 8 hours of drilling and climbing and explaining basic electrical concepts to people who thought they knew better. After he pulled on sweats and a t-shirt and ordered Thai food from the place down the block, pad CU and spring rolls, comfort food that required zero effort. He ate it standing at his window, watching Manhattan transform from business district to entertainment hub as office lights winked out and restaurant lights glowed brighter. Somewhere out there, Violette was probably doing the same thing. Standing at her window, maybe with that glass of wine he'd imagined, watching the same city he was watching. Their windows probably faced the same direction, northwest corner, both of them, which meant they were seeing the same lights, the same traffic patterns, the same slice of urban geometry. The thought made him feel less alone, which was stupid because he was alone. They both were. That was the whole point of living in a city of 8 million people. You could be surrounded by humanity and still feel completely isolated. Thorne cleaned up his takeout containers, opened his laptop to check emails, and tried very hard not to think about the fact that he was listening for sounds from next door. At 9:47 p.m., he heard her door, opening, closing, heels clicking, different shoes than this morning, or maybe the same ones, he couldn't tell through a wall. That same sharp, precise rhythm that was already becoming familiar.
Understand, Father, but the timeline is completely unrealistic. Yes, I know. I've already told the Dubai team we need at least another quarter to...
A pause while she listened.
I don't care what Harrison said. Harrison doesn't run this division? I do.
Another pause. Longer this time. Thorne imagined her standing in her apartment, heels kicked off now probably, phone cradled between shoulder and ear, pinching the bridge of her nose the way people did when they were trying very hard not to scream.
That's not fair, and you know it. I've increased revenue by 38% in the last 2 years. I've expanded into 3 new markets.
She stopped, listening.
Fine. Yes, I'll handle it. But I need more time.
Silence.
I love you too, Daddy.
The call ended. Thorne stared at his laptop screen, at an email from Rafe about next week's schedule, and realized he hadn't absorbed a single word. He should close the laptop, go to bed, stop listening to his neighbor's phone calls like some kind of creep. Instead, he stayed very still, ears tuned to the wall like he was a radio trying to find a signal. Through the wall, a door opening. Those heels being kicked off. He heard them hit the floor with two distinct thumps. Footsteps slower now, barefoot and tired. The sound of someone moving through their apartment with the weary familiarity of routine, checking locks probably, turning off lights, the small rituals of ending a day. Cabinet opening, glass being set down, liquid pouring, wine, almost definitely wine, the glug 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 of bottle to glass, generous pour. Then, so softly he almost didn't hear it, Violette talking to herself.
I hate my life.
4 words, said with such quiet devastation that Thorne felt them like a punch to the sternum. He sat there at his laptop, email unread, takeout containers in the trash, and wondered what kind of life could look so perfect from the outside. Billion-dollar company, luxury apartment, the kind of polish and pedigree that came with being a Westbrook, whoever the Westbrooks were, and feel so empty from the inside that you said those 4 words alone in your apartment like a prayer or a confession. At 10:15 p.m., a knock on her door. Thorne tensed, listening. The footsteps stopped. A pause. She was probably looking through the peephole, seeing who was there. The door opened.
Julian.
Her voice flat, surprised but not pleased. Resigned, maybe, like she'd known this was coming eventually.
Can I come in? It's late, I know, but Can we talk? Please?
A pause. Long enough that Thorne thought maybe she'd say no, close the door, tell him to fuck off and mean it this time. But then,
5 minutes.
no, don't let him in. Tell him to leave. You don't owe him anything. The thoughts were loud in Thorne's head, urgent and irrational. He had no right to have opinions about what Violette did, had no standing to judge her choices, but he was judging them anyway, sitting in his apartment with his hands clenched into fists, listening to her make a decision he already knew she'd regret. The door closed. Footsteps, 2 sets now, heavier and lighter, moving into the apartment. Probably the living room where they'd have more space, where they could sit on opposite ends of a couch and pretend this was a reasonable conversation between reasonable people.
I'm sorry about last night. I was drunk. I was an asshole. You didn't deserve that. Any of it.
No, I didn't.
Her voice was careful, guarded. Not quite accepting the apology, but not quite rejecting it either.
Can we start over? I'll do better. I'll be better. I love you, Vi.
Vi. That intimate nickname again. The kind that spoke of late nights and shared secrets and the particular vocabulary that couples developed like their own private language. Silence stretched out. Thorne held his breath, waiting.
You called me frigid.
Quiet. Factual. No emotion in her voice, which was somehow worse than if she'd been angry.
I didn't mean...
Yes, you did. You meant every word. You always do when you're drunk. The alcohol just gives you permission to say what you're thinking when you're sober.
That's not fair.
Fair? You want to talk about fair? Fair is me working 14-hour days to build something while you coast on your trust fund and criticize me for not being present enough. Fair is me cooking you dinner when I have time and you showing up 3 hours late because you forgot. Fair is me trying to have a conversation about our future and you dismissing everything I say because it doesn't align with your timeline. Fair is...
Jesus Christ, Violette! I said I was sorry!
The shout was sudden enough that Thorne flinched. Silence. Then Violette. Quieter now, but no less firm.
Sorry doesn't fix it, Julian. Sorry doesn't change the fact that you don't actually like me. You like the idea of me. The Westbrook name. The connections. The way I look on your arm at events. But you don't like me. You don't know me. You don't even want to know me.
That's not true!
Then tell me one thing you actually like about me. One thing that isn't my last name or my job or my appearance. One thing about who I actually am as a person.
Silence. Long, terrible silence that stretched out like taffy, pulling thinner and thinner until it had to break.
That's what I thought. You should go.
Vi,
Please, Julian, just go. We're done. We've been done for a while. We were just too stubborn to admit it.
More silence, then footsteps, heavy, male, heading toward the door.
You'll regret this. Good luck finding someone who puts up with your bullshit. Your cold, controlling, frigid bullshit. You're going to die alone. You know that. You're going to wake up at 50 and realize you chose a company over a life. Chose your father's approval over actual happiness. Chose...
Get out!
Violette's voice cracked like a whip.
You're going to regret this. When you're alone. When your father's dead, and your company doesn't love you back, and you have nothing but an empty apartment, and you're pathetic.
The door slammed. So hard the wall vibrated. So hard Thorne heard it through his entire apartment, through the walls and the floor, and possibly through the foundation of the building itself. Then silence. Absolute silence. Thorne sat frozen at his laptop, heart hammering, hands still clenched into fists. Through the wall, breathing, fast, panicked. The kind of breathing people did right before panic attacks or breakdowns or other kinds of coming apart. Then a sound like something hitting the wall. Her hand maybe, or her forehead pressed against plaster while she tried to hold herself together. Then, finally, crying. Not the soft crying from last night. This was raw, broken, messy. The sound of someone who'd been holding it together through sheer force of will and had finally completely run out of will to hold. Thorne stood up from his laptop, walked to the wall, and pressed his hand against it. He didn't know why, he just did. His palm flat against cream-colored plaster, warm from the building's heating, separated from Violette's apartment by 6 inches of horsehair and prayer and a century of other people's lives. On the other side, she cried like her heart was breaking. Maybe it was. Thorne stood there, hand on wall, feeling like the worst kind of voyeur and the only kind of witness, and wondered what the hell he was supposed to do with this. At 11:03 p.m., her phone rang. She answered, voice thick with tears.
Sloan?
A pause.
No, I'm not okay. Julian was just here. It was bad. It was really bad.
Another pause while she listened.
I know. I know you were right. You're always right. I should have listened to you months ago when you said he was...
She broke off, crying harder.
Yeah. Thursday. Lunch. I need to vent before I do something stupid, like call him back and apologize for getting upset when he called me frigid and told me I'm going to die alone.
She laughed, wet, bitter, the kind of laugh that was closer to crying.
I don't know why I let him back in. Temporary insanity. Loneliness. Fear that maybe he's right and I am too cold and too focused on work and too...
She stopped, listening to whatever Sloane was saying.
Thank you. I love you. I don't know what I'd do without you.
She hung up. Silence fell like snow, soft and absolute. Thorne moved away from the wall, turned off his laptop without bothering to read any more emails, and went to bed. He lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling he still didn't quite recognize, listening to the building settle and the city hum and the faint distant sound of someone trying to cry quietly enough that no one would hear. But he heard everything, and he had no idea what to do about it.
Thanks for listening, and please subscribe so you don't miss an episode.
And for early access and bonus episodes, become a Patreon supporter today.